I know it's early, but does being one of the last three undefeated teams, at least in Big 12 play, give you guys some hope or anything like that about what can be possible if you keep on winning?
Yeah, definitely. We definitely know our potential. Obviously with the last two wins that we had, those last two wins that we had, we definitely were so cohesive and came together so tight and just played so well as a team. And we obviously had struggles in both of those games. We weren't perfect whatsoever, but we definitely fought all four quarters and played all the 60 minutes. And as long as you do that, you can keep winning and keep winning every game. And we just attack every day at practice and just go out there and hope to keep this ball rolling.
You maybe didn't put up huge stats last week, but it seemed like you had quite an impact on the game. How did you feel about it yourself being out there?
Yeah, well, obviously, my main goal is to go out there, do my job, stay disciplined to my gaps, and just rush the passer when needed to. Obviously, me or the other DNs didn't come up with any sacks, but obviously, we just need to keep getting pressure on the quarterback. Makes it a lot tougher when the quarterback's, kind of a dual threat like their backup quarterback was, and just like how Max Dugan will be at TCU this upcoming week. But obviously, we just got to go out there and be disruptive as possible.
And can you give me a breakdown of TCU's offense? What are you going to have your eye on this week?
Yeah, well, they're returning three offensive linemen. They lost both of their starting tackles from last year. Obviously, returning their quarterback Max Dugan, which would be a true sophomore, very talented player. Lost a lot of key players. I think they had 6 or 7 guys, something like that, drafted last year. So lost a lot of key players, but they obviously have a lot of young talent as well that's stepping up. Their wide receivers obviously are always super fast. Their quarterback is a dual threat quarterback, can run and throw, has very hot feet in the pocket, and definitely is not hesitant to pull the ball and run. But obviously, like I said, as long as we just play our defense, stay true to our gaps, and stay gap discipline, we'll be completely fine.
Thanks, Wyatt. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jackson.
Wyatt, every week you go up in this conference against really talented offenses, but what is the challenge week to week, like transitioning from Oklahoma, then to Texas Tech, and now TCU? Obviously, something has to change week to week. What's the biggest change this week looking ahead?
You talking individually or as a team?
Both, if you could.
Individually, it's definitely tough, handling those double teams sometimes, getting chipped by the running backs or getting the slide protection with the tight end and the running back sliding your way. It obviously makes it tough to pass rush, but obviously it's just a challenge I have to deal with and something that I just have to go out there and stay productive with. As a team, obviously every single offense in the Big 12 is a little bit different. We knew Texas Tech was going to pass the ball a lot, but after we broke it down, after the coaches broke down the games, it was very simple. And same with TCU, offenses go out there and they only run a certain amount of plays and a certain amount of passing schemes. So as long as we can watch film and get those, memorize and get those down to a T, then it makes the game a lot simpler.
And then as you break those things down as a team, what can you say about some of those changes that the freshmen have had to make week to week and how they've handled those different challenges?
Yeah, well, definitely the freshmen that have been playing, TJ Smith, Will Howard, Deuce Vaughn, and a few others, those guys have definitely stepped up into their role, and the stage definitely isn't too big for them at all. I want to, give credit to a lot of the older guys and a lot of the leaders on this team because they've really taken those guys under and have helped them develop into great players. With the success they've had already and the success that they'll have in the future. But obviously those guys are definitely very talented and, like I said, the stage isn't too big for them at all.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chris.
Hey, Wyatt, you kind of touched on it there, but from a defensive guy's perspective, how good is Deuce Vaughn? And then just him being a freshman and making the big impact that he's made so far, is that at all surprising to you?
I heard a lot of good things about him before he came here. And, he's always been around football his whole entire life. And, the thing that makes a player great like him, and, I use the word great, pretty easily, but, he's only a freshman. But, he's been around football his whole life, and his dad's a scout for the Dallas Cowboys. And what makes a player good and great is, not only what they do on the field, but off the field as well. How they handle their business, how they watch film, the decisions that they make, who they decide to hang around with, all that kind of stuff plays a big factor into what you do on the field and do on Saturdays. And he's just a very mature young man. And he just goes out there and does what he does and works hard. And, obviously all the hard work is paying off for him.
Thank you.
Fitz.
Wyatt, we're 3 games into this season, and you've got Joe Klanderman now as your defensive coordinator. Have you noticed a difference in how he calls a game as opposed to Scotty Hazelton?
Yeah, a little bit. I say Scotty Hazelton was a little bit less conservative, ran a lot more blitzes and a lot more pressures. Obviously, we still do that with Coach Klanderman too, but, I'd say it's a little bit more laid back and run a lot more base defense. So obviously, both sides are, you can make plays, with blitzes, or you can make plays, just running base defense as well. So we just got to go out there and do our thing and get off the field.
Well, that brings up an interesting question. For a defensive end, is it more satisfying to get a sack off a 4-man rush than having the assistance of a blitz?
Well, yeah, I'd probably say 4-man rush just because it requires, it's 4 versus 5 or 4 versus 6, and it's a lot more rewarding sometimes, and it's a lot more tough. Other than a blitz, you probably have more blitzers than you do pass protectors. So, but a sack's a sack. It's a great feeling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do these last 2 raised hands, starting with Adam.
Wyatt, every member of this football team loves Chris Kleiman and plays hard for him. Just as a player, what's it feel like when you guys all love your head coach and then your head coach just gets a new contract extension like he just did?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think he definitely deserves that. I say that because he shows up every day and just works his butt off. And, I'm just trying to think what to say just because I have so much emotion for him. We sit in our captain's meetings every single Monday, and just things that we talk about as a staff and, the captain's on the team and what he gives advice to us about and how he keeps us updated on things, how he's going to do things for the week. But he's always asking us, what do we want? What's our input? And, we can always give it to him, and he gives us an honest feedback answer. And, the thing about Chris Kleiman, he's always going to say we, he's never going to say me. And, that's just something that really sticks out to all of us players. And he always emphasizes how nobody's bigger than the program, and the program's bigger than all of us. And that's just the thing that really sticks out with us.
Last one here, Ryan Black.
Hey, Wyatt, for you, is this specific game one that you have very fond memories of? Because in a way, it was maybe, I think, like your coming out party for people around the rest of the Big 12 and the nation, just because, you had 2 really, really big plays on like the next last possession for TCU. You dropped Dugan for a loss, and then you hit him on a 4th down play where their pass ended up just dropping to the ground. So just for you, is this a game that gives you a lot of fun memories when you think back on last season's matchup?
Yeah, I'd say so. And, I love playing certain teams every single year because of their offenses, because, some offenses are definitely a lot more complex than others. For example, TCU last week, like I mentioned, how they have only run a certain amount of passing schemes, a certain amount of runs. That just simplifies the game so much for a defense. And TCU, a little bit more complex than Texas Tech, but, very simple once you break it down, once you understand their whole entire game plan. They're going to run a lot of zone. They run a little bit of counter, zone read, and just all their passing schemes. So nothing special, nothing that we haven't seen in practice. So that just makes me excited. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, they graduated both their starting tackles last year. So that's something that I'm definitely looking forward to. It's going against those 2 new guys.